Welcome to lab number 3 of the Getting Started with GKE course. And in this lab, we're going to deploy a GKE cluster, and we're going to do it using autopilot mode, or we're going to deploy an autopilot cluster. And this is one of the big differences between the previous version of this course and this version of the course, that we're actually doing autopilot instead of the older manual way. And this kind of relates to Google really pushing autopilot. And I can totally see that using autopilot has its benefits for a lot of users. So just without further ado, let's get started. So we need to get over to GKE or Kubernetes engine, right? We can find it over here. Get rid of the hamburger. And then it's basically as simple as clicking create here, getting rid of that tutorial as well. And then we have, again, a demo regarding the UI. We're not really interested in that. We're just going to call the cluster Autopilot Cluster 1, and then we're going to set it into the region that we've been told. So it's US Central 1 for me. And then the rest of it we'll just leave as B. Right? I'm just going to click on Create. And now this takes a couple of minutes to get deployed. So I'm going to stop the recording and then come back once this is done. All right, so the cluster has been created. It took more than just a couple of minutes, at least for me. So let's take a look. Let's get rid of these promotions here. We can't see it yet here in the clusters list, even though it's created. So let's just refresh. And then you can see it here, right? So Autopilot Cluster 1 in US Central 1 region. One thing that we could do is take a closer look at the cluster. You can see different kinds of automatic configurations that have been made on your behalf, including IP ranges and that kind of stuff. Another interesting thing here is under storage. You can see that there are plenty of storage classes already available in the standard environment. So to test this thing out, we need to have a workload, right? So we can manage workloads. We could, of course, just use kubectl to connect to the cluster, but for our purposes in this particular lab, we're actually going to be using the web interface. So we can go on the workloads, and you can see that it knows that there are no workloads currently. So we have the option of creating a deployment here, and then we're just going to use Nginx, the latest image for this demo purpose. Then if you go to configuration, we can see that there is a setting for the namespaces and any labels. We normally use the app somewhat standard label to do this stuff. Cluster that we're going to be using. And then we have the option of exposing this as a service, where we're not doing this for this purpose. I'm just going to deploy it. So after a little bit of a slow start, my workload is finally actually running here. Now we can take a closer look at our workload here. So we can see how much CPU is being used, how much memory is being used, how much disk. This is aggregated over all of the pods. We actually have 3 replicas of our pod running in this deployment. And there are also other, standard kind of configurations that happen here automatically. Okay, so just kind of for you to know. There are some interesting tabs in here that give you some visibility into the pods themselves. Here we can see the individual CPU usage of each pod. We have a revision history for this specific deployment. You can see some events. And then, of course, also the logs. Get rid of this one. There's also a YAML tab here that basically gives us the YAML version of the deployment. So this would be something like, if you would use kubectl, then you would know this stuff. Similarly to this is the deployment, of course. We can actually also go to an individual pod. Let's just pick one at random. And then have similar kind of details about that specific pod, including YAML for that. And here you can see that there's some managed fields kind of below those. There's going to be a normal pod spec down here. So that's it for this lab. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.